I want to talk tonight about Chris Algieri. Before I start that, it's been a bit slower than I'd like recently uploading videos. Haven't done any for a few days. So I've got a few topics that I want to get through tonight. Might do 2 or 3 videos back to back. As always, becoming a bit of a habit when I'm recording. Tonight is another beer night. Bit of a tough time at work at the minute. So talking boxing and drinking some ale is the best way to get through it, I often find. As I say, a few things I want to discuss. The first one is Chris Algieri. And I'll tell you why. Chris Algieri, by all accounts, is not a top-class boxer. He scraped past Ruslan Provodnikov. Very, very debatable. He then stepped up to Premier League when fighting Manny Pacquiao. And he lost every single round. He got battered, humiliated, really, really exposed. Having said that, I like the guy. I know he's 30 years old. I know his only relevant win is a debatable decision against Ruslan Provodnikov at light welterweight. But I like him. I like the fact that he's got a big frame. I like the fact that he's got range. I like the fact that the guy can move. He's athletic. Not only look at his physique, but look at the way he moves around the ring. Even in the Manny Pacquiao fight, if you look at the first few rounds, he's losing the rounds. It's not enough to win him. But the guy's got some attributes. And it made me think, with a different trainer, and I understand he is speaking to different trainers, but with a different trainer, with a bit more experience, he could be a really, really relevant player in the division, whatever division that may be, light welterweight, etc. Now, Terence Crawford is a guy everyone likes. He's so likeable as a boxer. We saw him come over here and take apart Ricky Burns. We've seen the more recent fights, fight of the year contender with Gamboa, more recently against Beltran. This is a guy who's destined for pound superstardom. A really, really likeable fighter, really well-rounded. And there was talks about a Chris Algieri Terence Crawford fight. Now, whilst Terence Crawford would be an overwhelming favourite for that fight, and whilst Terence Crawford is a guy I would pick to come out ahead in that fight on the balance of probability, I thought that was a stylistically fantastic matchup, and it was being widely discussed as the next fight that could happen. Now, I actually thought it was a tough fight for Crawford for 2 reasons. One, and I don't have the stats in front of me, I'm basing this purely on my own eyesight, but I would guess Algieri is a bigger, taller man than Crawford. I would guess Crawford, who's been quite a sort of rangy, lanky individual at lightweight, maybe up against a taller, rangier opponent at light welterweight, and I'd be interested to see how he'd adapt with that. I'd also factor in that, this is Crawford moving up a weight, but effectively Algieri moving down a weight. I appreciate there was a catchweight in play, but let's not forget that Algieri stepped up to welterweight, or 143 pounds, to fight Manny Pacquiao, and he actually missed weight. He actually came in too heavy initially for that fight. So Crawford, is on the smaller side of light welterweight. Chris Algieri is on the bigger side. He's a heavier guy. He's got movement. We saw him get hurt in the Pacquiao fight and in the Provodnikov fight, but his fitness and his stamina got him through, and he went the distance in both of those. He's got real attributes. He's a rangy guy, a tough guy, stamina. He's fit. He's got boxing technique. I thought it was a really, really good matchup. I thought it'd be a great, great, great fight. I thought it was one of the best pure boxing matchups I've seen for a while. The Gale Durrell being another example that we'll discuss. But I got seriously excited for that fight. Now, it was with quite some disappointment that I heard that the fight and negotiations have apparently stalled, mainly on the Algieri side. The perception and the reports seem to suggest that Algieri has priced himself out of the fight. I heard that Chris made about $1 million for the Manny Pacquiao fight, and he's now trying to say that he deserves that kind of money for all of his fights, and It's unfortunate for him because he's apparently asking for $750,000 to fight Terence Crawford. If I were him, I'd be more inclined to fight Crawford on the basis that if I won, there'd be huge matchups available for me in the future. Now, disturbingly, I also heard that Algieri had recently rejected a fight with Shawn Porter for very, very similar reasons. Now, the Porter and the Crawford fights are both very, very tough matchups. They're both occasions where Algieri was definitely being brought in as an opponent to lose. But if we look at how Kell Brook had success outboxing Shawn Porter at times, if I was Chris Algieri, I'd be trying to see weaknesses in Porter that I could exploit and expose with my superior boxing skills and movement, similar to how Kell Brook got the job done. Now, what I'm saying is that Algieri's a guy I like. I think he can be involved in really entertaining and interesting matchups. And it genuinely is the same if these fights aren't going to happen because he's being too greedy on the money. I appreciate that boxing's a very short career. I appreciate the window of opportunity to make big paydays is very, very limited. But Chris Algieri should remember that he had an opportunity to become a superstar. And when that fight happened, he lost every single round. So, what I'm saying is, if you get to those sort of $1 million fights and you start getting destroyed in them, you have to maybe accept that you're going to be earning $500,000 for your next fight. And it is unfortunate, because if he'd beaten Crawford, if he'd beaten Porter, he'd be right back at the top of the division. There'd be all the big matchups available to him. Maybe Tim Bradley, maybe Amir Khan, maybe Kell Brook. You know, all these big fights would start making them available, because he's a marketable guy. He's got the profile after the Pacquiao fight, and if he got a credibility with a return win, things could happen for him. So, I for one hope things make people see sense. Algieri and his team see sense, and I hope that he does fight Terence Crawford. You know, he's a guy in his 30s now. He needs momentum, and if he can take out Terence Crawford, which I doubt he can, but you know, he's got a chance, it'll put him right back in the mix. Let me know your thoughts on Chris Algieri. Who would you like to see him box? Do you think he's being greedy, or am I being a bit harsh on him? Thanks for watching.